I know that this movie was highly anticipated by a lot of people this year, and that it let a lot of people down. So when I went to see this movie, I had set my expectations low. But I came out of it and I thought it was actually just fine, honestly. But I am leaning towards liking it more. Now, wait, before you click off the video, I will explain why I think there are parts that work to this, but also I will touch on what doesn't. Joker Folie Deux is set 2 years after the first movie, and Arthur is in prison for his 5 known murders. He's given a chance to testify in court for a reduced punishment by pleading insanity. Meanwhile, Arthur also meets Lee in prison, who matches his freak and brings out his musical side. Now, I will be honest, even as someone who's brave enough to say that I like this movie on the internet, I will admit the plot is really thin. They try to pad out this thin storyline with its musical elements, courtroom drama, and romance plot, but it never elevates the simple plot anywhere beyond what it is. And it's a shame too, because I think if the film had committed itself any harder to one of these genres, it would have saved it from feeling so empty. And it's pretty clear as you watch the movie how they're using each of the elements of the genre to just blend in the plot points in a more interesting manner. The musical genre externally conveys the internal emotions of Arthur and Lee. The courtroom drama gives a chance for the film to put the narratives of the first movie into retrospect, and the romance plot feeds into the film's core theme of fetishizations of symbols. Like, if you look at it beyond the surface level, you can see and appreciate what the movie's trying to do here. But damn, it gets hard to realize this when they fail to nail any of the genres they choose to use. But, crazy enough, I feel like that this was very much the point of the sequel. Which begs the question, what's even the point of this movie?
We do have a warning this morning from the U.S. military about the new Joker movie, alerting service members that there could be potential violence at theaters that are showing the film.
Anyone who's followed the first movie before its release will remember that its release was surrounded by scares and negative press. People thought that this movie would make people look up to the Joker and radicalize them to commit mass shootings, like the ones at the Dark Knight Theater when it came out. All of the fears around the Joker's symbol and how the film can negatively influence the people to follow his steps was the question that Todd Phillips wanted to answer with the movie. Todd's intent with the Joker was to make a cautionary tale about how a broken system could radicalize the people affected by it. But he also wanted to do it in a way where it subverts superhero movies' expectations, so he centers it around the struggles of Arthur Fleck. But I think because Todd sees that the first movie has been misinterpreted by so many people even before its release, he uses the sequel to make it clear that the original film doesn't support the actions of Joker. This makes Joker Folie Deux make sense as a continuation of the first Joker movie, where Arthur was at the wrong place at the right time for his actions to be recognized by the world around him. Arthur just wanted to get along in the world without being beaten up by it, but he finds out the hard way that the only way for the world to love him is for him to put on the Joker persona and slowly snuff out Arthur. So for the movie to focus on the two sides of Joker and Arthur makes sense, and the story that is told also makes sense when you consider that Todd's goal is to subvert the superhero movie expectations. In a way, it's similar to how Anno wanted to kill off Evangelion with the Rebuild series by bringing in new perspective to slowly delineate from what audiences were expecting from the story, except Joker Folie Deux delineates almost immediately from the moment you see the Warner Brothers logo show up, making it a much tougher pill to swallow. The way I see this movie is that it is built to challenge the audience, just like the first movie. It asks you to forget pretty much everything you know about Joker and Harley Quinn and see this as a story of Arthur and Lee. Much like the first film, everything here is loosely based off the original materials. None of the characters have the same motivations as their comic or cartoon counterparts. As a matter of fact, some of the dynamics are completely reworked for this movie. I think that this quote from Todd Phillips probably sums up his approach for adapting the characters best. The first film is called Joker. It's not called The Joker, it's called Joker. And the first film script always said an origin story, never said the origin story. This was the idea that maybe this isn't the Joker. Maybe this is the inspiration for the Joker. I do have to say that this is my personal interpretation of the sequel and why I think it exists just based on reading up about it. This doesn't necessarily mean that I agree that a sequel was needed. As a matter of fact, I think it was better for them to leave the movie alone. But with the first movie making $1 billion, it was probably hard for the Warner Brothers exec not to squeeze out any more money from this IP. Especially since the entire reason that this sequel was even considered in the first place was because Joaquin had a dream about it being a musical. So yeah, there's that. While on the topic of why the point of the story worked for me, I should also mention the other things that also did. To an extent. Joaquin Phoenix and Lady Gaga's performances were excellent in their role, and like others out there, I also agree that Lady Gaga was severely underused for the final cut of the movie. The cinematography is still just as good as the first Joker. We have mesmerizing shots that perfectly complement the chaos of the movie, especially the courthouse scenes, framing it to include the cameras in the courtroom during the trial scenes to subtly drive one of its main themes home was perfect, and this is definitely one of the most interesting use of lighting in a superhero movie, especially during the musical sequences. Speaking of the musical sequences, aside from it feeling half-assed in execution, the sets also felt half-built. I mean, yeah, I get it that that's the style, but some of the sets would have benefited from being used more, especially since they felt and looked really interesting. But given that the set is only used when Arthur slips into his musical fantasy world, and the film wants to stick with reality for the majority of the runtime, it's really the movie's own fault. So yeah, Joker Folie Deux wants to be a lot of things at the same time presentation-wise. The movie morphs from a courtroom drama to a musical to romance, and it doesn't stick the landing in any of the genres. But the movie did have a clear goal: to rationalize the existence of the first movie that people seem to be misinterpreting, to which it manages to land. It also lands the same goal of being a different experience from other superhero movies. Maybe this movie wouldn't have been hated that much if it wasn't about the Joker and just some guy in clown makeup. But either way, the fact that this sequel's existence is so ballsy is kind of why I lean towards liking it, because I think it managed to achieve its main goal, even at the cost of alienating fans for the first movie. Because this movie works best when you see this as an origin story for a Joker, and not the origin story of the Joker. I'd imagine the comment sections may not love this video very much, but I definitely would love to hear your thoughts on it, as long as they are constructive. That is the only thing I ask for this video. It is 2024, I hope that we can behave in our comments and not just blatantly trash this film and this video by extension. But if you were here for an alternate point of view, I hope that this video helps you see the potential reasons to why this movie isn't just dog shit. So yeah, thank you for checking it out, and I hope that you got a little something out of it. As always, hit the like and the subscribe button, and hit the bell for notifications for any future videos from the channel. Alright, that's all I got for today. Thank you for watching.